all of a sudden she walks up on him and she checks him, and you're thinking at this point in time, okay, she's gonna stop being so robotic and crazy and do something human and give him mouth to mouth, call somebody on her phone or whatever the fuck. But she doesn't do that. She notices that he's still alive, and instead of rendering him help at that point, she picks up a rock and she hits him over the fucking head, and then arranges the body so that the water would run over his face and make him drown and make it look like an accident, like he just hit his head while he was out fucking around trying to save, Dorothy and Toto and shit. Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to Ask Me If I Give a Shit, the movie reviews podcast where we ask that fundamental question that so many others leave out. Do I give a shit?
Do I really do? I mean, seriously.
Seriously, dude. Do I give a shit about this story? Do I give a shit about these people? Do I give a shit about what is happening? I read so many movie reviews, and I just think to myself, that's the one thing you haven't told me. They tell me, like, why they give a shit, but they never tell me why I should give a shit. I'm not this person giving this movie review, and I don't have this uppity, fabulous life, and I just don't care as much as they do, and they never tell me why I should. So we're here to tell you why you should, and today we're going to tell you why you should give a shit about a 2013 film that we really loved called Under the Skin. Under the Skin is a movie that's coming from almost 9 years ago, but this is one that does not disappoint. This movie...
Oh no, I think this helped us to actually come up with a theme for this season.
This was the movie that we watched last year that really inspired us to pretty much make a podcast, and it absolutely inspired the theme of this season, which is what the fuck did I just watch? When we watched this movie the first time, we actually watched this remotely, and so we were just chatting back and forth on encrypted messenger and sharing thoughts about what we were seeing. And a lot of times when we would do this, it would be late after work, and we would just be not always stay up for the whole thing, but usually she would stay up and catch the rest of it. Her insomnia is worse than mine.
Oh yeah.
And I would just be out of it. Like, I just wouldn't even catch it. And, but this is one that I actually stayed up for. And the reason that it inspired the season theme that we have today is because that was literally my text message to you after the end of this movie, which we watched remotely. I just texted you at the end and said, what the fuck did I just watch?
Oh, yeah.
And then we talked about, did you see this? And she was like, yeah, that's what I saw too. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, we did not see it coming.
I had to actually break this down for you because it is...
You break down a lot of movies for me, but this one especially.
Because this one is an art style movie. It's a lot of visuals.
Y'all, I used to think that I was smart in my ability to understand visual storytelling and break it down to other people. And let me just tell you, when I started watching movies with Danny, I felt like the person that I usually had to explain movies to, except I was that person now, and I was wondering what would it be like to watch movies with a greater comprehension, because she's the one that explains this shit to me, and that's definitely the case with this film.
And I do try my best. I grew up with two parents that were movie buffs, and I do mean movie buffs. I've explained a little bit in the past about that. I remember most Fridays sitting down on the couch watching anywhere from horror to comedy. It did not matter with them.
Could you say right off the cuff, if you had to pick one for each of them, what your parents' favorite movies were? Like, do you know what your mom's favorite movie is? Do you know what your dad's favorite movie was?
My mom's favorite movie is not an actual movie. It's actually
a silent film from the the before the talkie age.
I wish. No, it's actually a TV show. I think her favorite one is Stargate.
I was gonna say, please don't say Bonanza.
No.
Republican Cowboys.
Her favorite genre is actually sci-fi.
I believe that. Yeah, I let a rumor go in Danny's house one time that I might be considering watching Firefly, and before anything else had ever happened, her mom popped up in the room and was like, "So I hear you're thinking of watching Firefly."
Oh yeah. The thing is that it only lasted one season, and that one season made a comeback in a movie.
That's why I'm not sure I want to get into it, man. That sounds like a whole lot of commitment for a bunch of disappointment. Like,
it's not.
I already have to deal with that from the show Outsiders, which had Opie from Sons of Anarchy riding a quad bike and being a crazy hillbilly instead of a California meth head. Like, I really hate that I don't know what's going to happen with the Klan and the Brennan and fucking West Virginia Coal Town anymore. But thanks a lot, WGN, for changing your fucking programming style or image or whatever the fuck you guys decided that wasn't good enough for you assholes. But anyway, today we're going to talk about this little movie called Under the Skin.
Now, let me tell you something about this one.
Yeah, talk to me about this movie, because this movie needs a lot of explaining.
Yeah, so first off, we don't normally do this, but I do need to shout out this director, Jonathan Glazer.
Have we ever watched anything else by this director? Did you recognize anything else by this director?
I honestly don't know. I have to go back and look.
This movie is a rabbit hole. Like, once you get into it, it's going to take you places and research and Wikipedia and time lost, and treat it like Firefly. Don't get into it if you're not ready for this bullshit.
And this is another one of our favorite films by A24.
Oh, no, this is an A24 film?
Yes.
Damn it. So how many does that make for the season? Is that like 5?
I think it's between 3 and 5 right now.
Between 3 and 5. Okay, so either 11 or 5 for you fans of George Carlin, and tune in, towards the season finale to find out which one it was. We'll let you know.
And he actually got Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson is hot as fuck, dude.
I know the backstory to that one.
Oh, yeah. I'm just talking about the actress. It's nothing to do with my personal life.
Yeah, but the actress did an amazing...
Yeah, she did a good job
in this, especially with...
She would have killed me for sure, dude.
Especially with it being in Scotland.
No wonder I couldn't fucking understand him in this movie. So I'm sure you guys are all paying for your services legally and getting those good subtitles, and we just want you to know you're getting your money's worth with the last 2 movies on this season.
She did an amazing job with...
She did an amazing job,
with
guys.
How...
We actually said her name. We never fucking remember who the actors are or something. We're just like, oh, girl, or this person. But no, this is Scarlett Johansson, y'all. This is worth your eye time.
You cannot miss this. So how the movie actually starts out is, I call it It's
a David Lynch wrong artsy mind fuck that takes forever just to show you a person's eye.
Yeah, and it actually takes so long, you actually think
you wonder if the sound is broken.
Yeah, we muted, unmuted, turned up the volume on the TV, everything, when we both remotely and when we went back and watched it again.
Like, one of the few things I have from student loan debt is the ability to tell you that in professional video production, they try to not hold a scene for more than 3 seconds. Like when you're watching a reel on the local news and they're showing you a little story, they don't focus on any one thing for more than 3 seconds because your brain gets bored. It's got to take you somewhere else. And this movie breaks the fuck out of that convention.
It really does. So after we see this Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange is a good way. It's very surreal fucking this like live action Salvador Dali painting coming to life, and it's just a fucking eye, and you're like, oh my god.
A lot of the reviews call him the Motorcycle Man.
Yeah, the Motorcycle Man.
Which is actually a very good description.
Yeah, because we don't know shit else about him except that and what he does for this whole film.
Exactly. So we see him bringing in a dead body to a white van parked on a hillside after he retrieves said dead body from said hillside.
Yeah, he's like the cleaner. He shows up and he picks up the dead person and he fucking cleans up the crime evidence so that nobody has to fucking pay social penalties. So this goes from this fucking long-ass David Lynch yada yada trilling violins just to show you like an eye looking at you, and then we see this like little light winding up this mountain road at night, and you can tell it's like a far off shot of like a car coming up this winding mountain road. Then we see Motorcycle Man putting a dead girl over his shoulder, or presumed unconscious girl, into the back of a Scottish construction van. The next thing we see after that is this black water void that I was hoping you could explain. Like she goes in the van and then everything changes to where it looks like something between an iPad commercial and the Upside Down from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
A lot of style in this movie, guys. Brace yourselves.
Oh yeah, the Motorcycle Man pretty much disposed the dead body.
Puts her in a van.
Puts her in the van. And we see another woman, which is Scarlett Johansson, get dressed in these women's clothes.
Oh yeah, like she's in the Upside Down and she's like undressing this unconscious dead girl and like putting on her clothes, and then she like leaves the Upside Down. And what's she doing then?
Well, she's driving around the van that we've seen earlier.
Yeah, she's
in the movie.
Driving around in the construction van,
and
like we see the Motorcycle Man and her leave this house where they presumably stashed the dead body sometime after the Upside Down scene or whatever happened, and he gets on his motorcycle and takes off like Jared Leto in a shitty music video, and she jumps in the construction van and starts riding around in fucking downtown Scotland somewhere.
Yeah, and as the movie progresses, we see her interacting with other people, but it's not real.
It's very feigned. It's very surface level. It's like she pulls over and like asks people for directions that she doesn't really need because she's clearly not lost. And this movie gives you no context to where she's trying to go or whatever, and you just kind of realize that there's something fishy here and she's not really lost.
This comes into play when she's thrown into several different scenarios, which actually play out throughout the movie.
So basically, yeah, this movie starts out, it's this long-ass David Lynch violins and eye scene, and then it's this Cruella de Vil coming up to the lair where they stash the puppies, little light traveling up a mountain road scene, and then it's the motorcycle man, like, putting the dead chick in the van, and then we see Scarlett Johansson in the upside down, changing into some chick's clothes, then she hops in the construction van from a place where she and motorcycle dude stashed her body, and she starts driving in gritty-ass downtown fucking Scotland. And when I say gritty-ass downtown fucking Scotland, like, if you've ever seen the movie Trainspotting or read the book that it was based on, like, gritty-ass fucking downtown Scotland, this is like nothing but white people around, but yet somehow I feel very unsafe just looking at this scene with all these humans in it. And even as that's eerie and whatever, we see her just kind of rolling around, just looking for motherfuckers, rolling up on them, rolling down the window, asking for directions, pretending like she's lost, saying, how do I get back to the interstate, and all this shit. We see her asking these guys shit like, oh, so where are you going next? What are you doing? Where do you work around here? She's like being a fucking cop, but just not being like, not a cop, right? And she's asking
I think it's her attempt at flirting.
Or some shit like that.
Trying to blend in, because don't forget, we see her in this white void at the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, and after she gets in the van, she goes, after she gets in the van, we forgot to mention this, but after she gets in the van, she goes immediately to the mall and buys hooker makeup and like puts it on.
It's called Fire Engine Red, by the way.
Fire Engine Red, Ronald McDonald makeup, and she's like out there in downtown rapey ass Scotland, rolling around asking motherfuckers for directions until she finds one that will get in the car and come home with her, or ride with her a little ways. And the first dude she finally fucking gets in the car, rides with her a little ways, and then he's actually like a decent dude, so he's like, okay, yeah, thanks, I'm good from here, and he leaves, and that's it. And he has no idea how lucky he was, because the next motherfucker she gets in the van, she takes him straight to the upside down.
Oh yeah, that's right, because she lures him to a dilapidated house,
which kind of looks like the place where Motorcycle Man stashed the last body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It does.
And we just see these artsy fucking scenes of like her walking like from behind, all sexy and shit.
In a blacked out room, like completely black.
Like I said, guys, it's somewhere between like an old Apple commercial and a fucking Upside Down from Stranger Things.
So as you're seeing this happen, you're thinking, oh, they're going to get it on. No, but as soon as he undresses, he starts sinking into this black,
he starts sinking into the floor of the Upside Down. Yeah. Like it's like a combination of the Sunken Place from Get Out and the Upside Down from Stranger Things. This dude starts walking after her sexy ass while she's still got her clothes on, and he's stripping all his shit off, and she gets further away, and as he's walking after her trying to catch up to the sexy lady, he starts sinking into that sunken place, into the floor of the Upside Down,
and then we just see him disappear.
And he just disappears.
Like I said, there's a lot of arts that go on to this, and we'll admit that this is not the first man she lures. Well, it is the first man, but it's not the last. It's the first
man we see her pulling in.
Yeah, but it's not the last man we see her pulling in. As this continues, the next scene that we're introduced to is the scene of the beach with her walking the shoreline and then seeing a woman.
Yeah, so after she traps the first motherfucker in the Upside Down, she goes to the beach and she sees what, Danny?
She sees a woman trying to rescue a dog from the surf and a man trying to rescue the woman.
And how does she move after that?
It's very robotic.
We see Scarlett Johansson moving in a very robotic, weird type of way.
Yeah, no emotion.
No emotion.
And this also plays out earlier when she's talking to the men, because
it all seems very fake.
Yeah, and not only that, but you see her facial features change a lot.
Yeah, like if you guys have ever talked to someone that was twacked the fuck out, it's kind of like that.
So as this is going on, the swimmer that was trying to save probably both of the couples that saw this happening is completely exhausted and washes up on the beach.
So we see her watching a woman that runs in after her dog. The guy that she's watching runs in after the woman running in after her dog. They both get lost, and then there's a third person that runs in after them, right?
Yes.
And then what do we see next?
The next thing that we see,
this all happens really fast. So good luck with this fucking scene.
Oh yeah, you're going to be rewinding it, because we had to rewind it.
It takes a long time to tell you nothing, and it tells you a shit ton in a short amount of time. So this is one of those times where it's telling you a shit ton in a short amount.
Yeah.
As the guy and the woman and the dog that ran into the ocean to save each other are all gone in a successively sad chain, she sees the guy that ran in after them wash up on the shore, and he's not quite dead yet. He's just laying there, and all of a sudden she walks up on him and she checks him, and you're thinking at this point in time, time, okay, she's gonna stop being so robotic and crazy and do something human and give him mouth to mouth, call somebody on her phone or whatever the fuck. But she doesn't do that. She notices that he's still alive, and instead of rendering him help at that point, she picks up a rock and she hits him over the fucking head, and then arranges the body so that the water would run over his face and make him drown and make it look like an accident, like he just hit his head while he was out fucking around trying to save, Dorothy and Toto and shit.
And then after that, we see the motorcycle man, or the cleaner, come up and take him, or supposedly take him away.
Yeah, and because we like to give indications of content too, we will tell you that it's not graphic, it's not too much, it's very much implied, but there is a very dark element to this scene that we're not discussing. We're not. Yeah, we're not discussing it, but when the cleaner man comes to pick up the dead body, we see very clearly that the cleaner man has no concern whatsoever for human life.
No.
At all. It's almost like he sees them as vermin.
Exactly.
It's made very clear by this scene. By the way, this movie's not for the faint of heart.
No. So after that, she attempts to pick up another man.
Yeah, so he's dead, and the motorcycle man comes to get him, and she just kind of takes off in her van and starts trolling around for other motherfuckers to kill, right?
Yeah, and she ends up at a nightclub.
And as she's walking towards this nightclub, this gaggle of, like, drunk British women that are all coked out kind of walk up to her and they're like, oh, yeah,
let's have a party.
Let's have a party. I can't do a very good impression of drunk British women on coke, but a bunch of drunk British women on coke come up to her and they're like grabbing her boobs and kind of pushing her that way, and they just kind of hurt her. And if you've ever heard that Eliza Schlesinger stand-up comedy bit where she like makes the sheep sound, it kind of reminds me of that. They just sort of herd her on to do her thing, and they end up in this fucking club, and it's all this, typical nightclub dance. And it's at this point in the movie that I asked myself, what fucking year is it in this movie? Because the techno music that was playing in the bar was not me being old and calling like EDM techno. I mean, it was fucking techno, and I'm like, what the fuck listens to techno? And this is, what year is it? And then I realized at this point we hadn't seen a phone in this movie. And it's somewhere between like 2005 and 2022, but did you get any bearing on when this movie was supposed to be when you were watching this?
No. Well, we also have
to think... It's just a dystopian era.
Yeah, we also have to think too, at this point, we're seeing sort of modern technology, we say, in cars. But at the same time, don't forget, this director based their movie off of the...
I mean, there's techno. It's at least 1999.
Yeah, so they're basing the
movie off of a book that was probably written 10 or 15 years before it actually got made into a movie.
Yeah, 2000.
Okay. That actually makes perfect fucking sense, because it really was techno. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a story that was written in 2000 that's being presented a few years later, and that's not so bad. We don't see any smartphones in it, but this is definitely a modern Scotland movie. So however modern Scotland is, this is it.
So at the nightclub, she finally picks up what we assume is the second victim.
Right, because some dude comes up to her and this is all like drunk and fucked up and probably just did enough coke to like talk enough and act like he's whatever, but he's clearly fucked up. He barely remembers her. He doesn't even remember that he remembers her, but she's all like, oh, didn't I see you earlier? Didn't I ask you for directions? And he's like, sure you did.
So after she picks him up, of course, she takes him back to that dilapidated building, but at the same time, this is the first time we actually get to see inside the upside down world, or the void. Yeah,
because she does the exact same thing to this guy that she takes home from this like bar that the gaggle of bitches led her to, and he's doing the same thing that we see in this surreal explanation of what's going on. And it's like a surreal explanation of the fact that she took this guy home pretending that she wanted to get with him, and then she killed him. And the way it's communicated is the same way with the last dude that fell and sank into that went from the upside down to that sunken place. He's following after like this swaying back and forth ass of sexy Scarlett Johansson, and then he ends up sinking as he takes his clothes off. As he becomes more vulnerable, he falls further down, and as he's down there in the sunken place, all of his skin starts turning blue, and we think this is a fucking music video from the Blue Man Group, and we think this is how this all started. And then this other motherfucker down there that we realize is the last son of a bitch that she put into that sunken place, he's all blue and covered in shit, and he's all like reaching out. He's also
bloated too. Don't forget that.
He's all like bloated and reaching out, like that fucking Leonardo da Vinci pull my finger photo where they're like touching and doing all that gay shit. And he like reaches out to touch the other guy who's like, I'm also stuck in the water, or whatever in the fuck. He's reaching out to touch him, and then he literally pops like a fucking balloon, and his skin like folds up like a balloon. It just pops. So it's like a combination of, if the people in True Blood had helium inside of them and it was filmed in slow motion, that's what you see this happening to this dude. It's like a bad first day in the Blue Man Group. That's kind of what I got from this surrealist bullshit.
Oh yeah, so
it's good. It's that good bullshit, but this is that bullshit. This movie is on that bullshit, y'all.
Oh yeah, So, as we're seeing this go on, what we're assuming is the next day, she receives a rose from a vendor in traffic.
Just a guy that's like walking around trying to hustle up some crack money in Scottish traffic, right? Like, instead of washing windows, he's selling roses, right?
Yeah. Apparently, a pedestrian from another car bought her a rose.
So, that's right. Okay, somebody trying to flirt with her
from
paid
across
the crackhead
the road
for a rose, and he sent it to her, and then, okay, I got you. Did she end up stalking that motherfucker?
I honestly don't know. But
I'm sorry. I mean, did she end up stalking that Scottish person?
Honestly, I don't know, but she does pay close attention to the radio, which does state that there is a missing family. With that missing family, she assumes it's from the beach, because it also states that they were last stated or seen at the beach.
Like I said, turn on the fucking subtitles of this, guys. You're gonna never get this otherwise. Do we see any chipperness in her face? Is she like happy, or is it just like straight fucking cold snake? Like
cold snake. We still don't see any emotion, but we see
the interest perk up.
Yes.
Other than that, we see no reaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
And after this part, we see her enter in a blackout room, much like the Void, except that she is examining the motorcyclist, the cleanup crew, so to speak.
So we see the two people in this fucking kill people Scottish style operation, like looking at each other in the upside down.
Yeah.
To give a basic description.
And she tries to understand what is going on with herself. You can see it, like she's trying to understand. And we see a little bit of humanity come back out into her when she lets...
Did we ever see any humanity in her up until this point?
No.
Like, she seemed like a robot. Scarlett Johansson has basically seemed like Lucy this whole time, like straight fucking like robot.
Oh, yeah. What happens next is she tries to seduce a man with tumors on his face and everything.
This guy that she picks up in the movie at this point actually reminds me of the character Rocky from that movie called Mask from the 80s. It was severe facial deformities. Like, this guy looked like the Elephant Man. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's like tumors everywhere. But
he's not the kind of guy that anybody's going to try to take home unless they have some kind of a fetish.
Yeah. So at this point, it's actually revealed that she has at least a little bit of emotion to herself,
because she lets him go.
Yeah, she literally says, "No, we're not doing this," in herself and lets him go.
I felt like she kind of tested him a little bit too, because I feel like some of the questions that she asked were kind of waiting for him to be the heathen, the bad guy, the guy who was looking for something cheap off of a woman, and he seemed like he was just not that type of person. And I think some of his responses struck her, and I don't know, you could see her analyzing him before she decided to do this.
Well, yeah, don't forget, up until this point in the movie, we're seeing a robotic person with forced or faked emotions,
if there have any emotions at all. Like, we really see a whole lot of like no emotion.
Yeah, most of it up until this point is literally no emotion. The few little percentage that we see of emotion is fake.
I really wish that we could talk more about what happens from here, from this point in the movie. And this is a really hard movie to talk about, because on the one hand, the hype and the pressure is high for this movie, because we named our whole season after something I said after we watched this movie. This is a perfect example of something we stumbled upon that turned out to be one of the wildest rides that we ever normally would have expected from just a random movie pick. That we just picked this off of a list without ever seeing a trailer or anything. It just it was like, hey, Scarlett Johansson, she's kind of good, let's throw that on. I wish we could talk about the ending. Like, I really wish that we could talk about the ending, because
it does make a really good ending.
The ending makes this film.
It does.
Like, this film is passable, it's okay, it's decent. Like, it definitely was worth watching up until that point if it didn't have a bad ending. But then the ending it had is what made it such a good movie and made all that other stuff just like perfect and flawless.
Like, we keep telling you about this movie, it's very artsy, so you have to pay attention just a little bit more than you would a regular movie.
Yeah, and also by artsy, we mean that there's going to be some things that there is no definite answer to. You might spend all fucking night on Reddit trying to listen to someone's explanation of it, but they just do some intentionally vague shit in there, and there's no there's no one right answer to some of this shit in here. They're just fucking with you.
Unless if you have literally a degree in psychology, you will not completely understand the process of this movie because it is very subtle with the psyche.
I don't know what it is with psych people making fucking surreal, weird, horror type, thriller type movies. Like, did you ever see that movie called The Cell with Jennifer Lopez?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's another one of those movies that I'm sure that people sat around at the time, like, they talk about Rick and Morty today, and we're like, no, bro, you have to have at least a so and such level of education to really appreciate what's being said here, man. But yeah, it was like a psychological movie, but it was just like, I don't know, artsy as fuck. It's kind of like you got the impression that the writer of this like thought they were going to be a psych major, and then they just quit halfway through and started taking up finger painting, and now they're making a movie.
Wow.
I mean, that kind of went from 0 to 100, but do you follow me?
Yeah, I do, because it's the same thing with this one. It's literally...
It's artsy as fuck. There's no good luck figuring it out. It's not too fucking artsy. Like, there's still a movie going on underneath all that
layers,
special presentation and shit.
Yeah, so now we go to our questions.
So, Danny, one of the questions that we ask usually first when we remember it at all is, what genre is this movie?
Well, it's science fiction, but I think it's also classified as a thriller in this case, too, because of the psychological stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I would call it a psychological horror / thriller with a hashtag of surreal and cerebral in it, because this is some mindfuck shit. This, if Salvador Dali was making you a movie, it would be kind of like this.
Oh, it's true.
What time is it, Sal? It's like, oh, I don't know, the fucking clock is melted.
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of those types of movies.
Yeah, this is one of those types of movies. I like a good drama. Is probably my favorite genre of my favorite go-to, like most
often
when I watch a movie.
I know it is, because we have mainly dramas on our list.
That's right. But second of all, if I had to choose a second category, probably psychological thriller / horror is where some of my other favorite movies show up at. I don't like all of them. Like, I don't go around like, oh my god, Fight Club, it was so just fucking Fight Club, man, yeah.
Meanwhile, I'll be over here talking about horror all day long if I wanted to.
Fight Club was fine, and horror is fine. It just seems that there's like people that are into either of those two things. That's like their whole personality. I don't even mind if someone really likes Fight Club. It's just that that's usually the only movie that they've ever seen or ever plan to watch again, and so it's hard to talk about movies with them, and when it comes to like horror movie people, you're just like, Jesus shit, you watch stuff that you don't even like just because it's the newest horror thing out and you're bored, like the person stumbling onto this podcast. And I see people that because all they watch is horror, and that's cool and all, but that's kind of like if all you use is hot sauce. Like, don't get me wrong, I like hot sauce a lot. Everyone that's been around me knows that I like hot sauce. It's not a fucking secret. But I don't want it on my ice cream. Every once in a while, I want to eat some ice cream. So, Danny, one of the questions we always ask after that one is, do I care about these people?
Well, it's an artsy movie,
so no, definitely not, right?
No, I mean,
I don't even know, like, if
there's really
from Earth. I don't know.
Well, we don't even get the backstory on this robotic girl. We don't get a story at all.
None.
So we don't know the backstory. We just see her picking up random men, killing said random men, and we don't get it.
It would be really tempting at this point to give away the little bit of a glimmer of backstory that we get, but I'll just not do that and instead tell you guys that that's one of the factors of the ending that makes it so good, is it sheds a little bit of light on this whole thing that you seen.
Oh, yeah.
Is dope. So, no, we don't care about these people. Do I care about what's happening to them?
Slightly, because...
And that's a weird one for this, too, because if you're talking about... Because actually the answer is no. Because I don't care. These people that she's picking up and, like, luring into a fucking abandoned building and killing are like... Well, they're kind of motherfuckers. Like, they just,
they pick on women.
They're motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying they're like, just go kill them. But, like, I mean, if someone does, I mean, they were some motherfuckers. That just means they're not giving somebody else their motherfuckery.
Yeah, there's literally no foul.
Do you know that episode of the Snowplow Show where Brad calls these guys from this COVID list at this bar and he tells them that, they were looking back at the security footage and they noticed that you were just being kind of a motherfucker and just stay in, Henderson where you belong and don't come down here anymore to our bar?
Sorry?
You didn't hear that one?
No, I did not. I need to listen to this now.
So there's this episode of the Snowplow Show where Roy calls up people and he's like, hey, we saw you came down to the bar the other night, you're on the COVID list, and we looked back at the security footage, and, you're just being a motherfucker when you were in there, and we're just calling to ask if you could just not do that anymore. Just matter of fact, just stay out of our video store altogether. Yeah, so, like, my point being is not that I'm saying that these people, like, deserve to be murdered, but they're definitely some motherfuckers. Like, they're probably were out there kicking a cat or raping somebody if they were still alive. So I don't care so much about them. So no, I don't care that much about the victims, and I also don't care about the perpetrators. Like, even though she's technically supposed to be this, like, good bad guy that's out there doing a bad thing, one bad thing, but she's getting more bad from happening by getting worse people than her off the stage.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Seeing this person that has both a good and bad side and the development of it, even though you get that in this movie, you really don't get it.
No, you don't, because even though she's supposed to be this, like, good bad guy, I don't fucking like her. I don't think that she's good either. And I don't even think she's all that bad. She just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, She's
like a neutral tone, so to speak.
So, Danny, let me ask you this. Did Under Your Skin capture your attention within the first 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah, I did. It might have taken those 20 minutes instead of those 5.
I didn't know for sure at 20 minutes that I was still going to stick with this, but I was not, like, in a quick to give up on it place. Like,
yeah, it was like, okay, well, it's an artsy movie. We at least knew sort of that going into it, so it was understandable that it would do it in the 20.
Yeah, you gotta fuck with the artsy movies on their time schedule, man. They're all like, there is no time and the clock is melting. You know how this surreal shit is.
Again, Clockwork Orange.
I fucking hate that movie, actually. We'll talk
Never
about that
seen
sometimes.
it.
Yeah, that movie sucks, dude.
Never seen it.
That movie sucks.
I know
and
certain
I never
references because I've seen the cover art, but other than that, no.
Here's the thing about A Clockwork Orange, okay? Just because, I'm really stupid and don't have any knowledgeable opinions about it. A Clockwork Orange was a book that was written by a guy that was actually a dystopian Calvinist that wanted to show God's redemption in a story. But his story got made into a movie by a guy who was a postmodern nihilist. So the movie doesn't actually translate that story very well. I was surprised that I actually liked the book because, yeah, that movie sucks ass, dude. The only reason I've even seen that movie is because I had to write about it for a film class one time, and it fucking sucked, dude. I'll put it to you this way. I got to the rape scene in that movie, and I was like, I don't care how artsy you're making it. This is cringe.
Okay. Looks like I'm avoiding a movie.
It's just not that good. It's one of those movies, just like people that have never watched David Lynch films will name drop him to sound like they're, like, big into cinema and shit like that. Fucking A Clockwork Orange is one of those things that people who think that they're interesting have to say that they like.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Again, I am not going to watch that.
Yep. The book is good, though. The book is really good.
That I might read.
You have to learn a new language. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings, because he makes up like a dystopian, like, gangster slang that you have to learn how to read. And he doesn't give you any instructions on how to read it. He just starts throwing it at you, and you pick it up by the end of the book.
Okay, then.
So, did you think that the acting was good in Under the Skin?
Yes.
I wasn't sure what they were trying to portray, but they were portraying the hell out of it.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
the acting was good.
Oh, yeah, because don't forget, Scarlett Johansson has to be emotionalist.
Yeah, and
this.
I wish, again, that we could evaluate this question in terms of the information that we get in the ending, but we're not going to do that to y'all because it's really that worth going and fucking checking out. Like, the ending to this is fucking amazing. Like, I went back and watched this movie again. This ending to this movie made me say, what the fuck did I just watch? So,
oh, yeah.
Is there anything that you like about the world in which this movie is made?
Well, the science fiction aspect, but that's about it.
I like the fact that it was in Scotland, like I kept hoping the whole time that she would, like, run into some of the people from Train Spotting, and then they would, like, stab her in the neck with a dirty needle, and it would just get all kinds of, like, Jerry Springer, and they'd start yelling and stuff. About the setting and the world in which this movie is set, this is a fucking movie that takes place in Scotland, so you're definitely going to need subtitles, because I swear to God, the hardest language in the world to understand is English when people in the UK are speaking it. So, yeah, get those fucking subtitles out. OpenSubtitles.org is a website that I heard in a dream one time that you might find something at.
But, yeah, I mean, seriously, it was trying... When you're...
Yeah, the world in which this was set was cool. It was a really interesting dystopian, like, England. It was kind of like, you feel like, maybe that V for Vendetta was just about to start happening.
Well, yeah, because we don't see no cell phones or anything. We don't see any.
That's right. We don't actually know. And the book for this movie was written in like the early 2000s is when it was published. And I think that when they portrayed this story, they tried to keep it in that, without putting a timestamp on it, they tried to keep it in that, true to that original story, because you don't see any cell phones.
No.
And that was a smart choice by the director, because if I'd have seen, a Nokia fucking flip phone or a phone without a color screen on it, like I would know, oh, okay, it's 2004 right now.
Yeah. And not only that, but we also only see her interacting with, like, the radio of the van, and that's it.
Yeah, that's weird. She has this weird way of listening to the radio, and I didn't realize till the ending that was a clue about what was going on with her the whole time.
There's your subtle hint for the day.
So, number 6 is a big one for this. Did you like the style in which this movie was made? This movie is so much style in it that I was really glad that it wasn't all about style, like The Fountain or some shit.
Oh, yeah. It had style. It had really good taste, too. It's just, again, it's an artsy movie. We can talk about it all day long, but unfortunately, the best part of it is the ending.
Yeah, it is. This film actually did have a point. It actually drove to a point. It was kind of a razor blade because of how much style and edge they were laying on, but it actually drove to a point that was every bit as sharp as the edginess of this film.
Yeah, because the thing is that, yeah, it had style, and at certain points you're like, okay, they're going to put more here, and then, no, they don't.
Exactly. So, here's a big one for us. Can I watch this movie with my family? Too much nudity. No.
No, too much nudity, so no.
And not only that, but like, if you watch this movie with your family, you know that your parents are going to be like, wait, so what's happening? Where did the buildings go? Why is the floor water? And how come there's nothing but white behind us? She only had a lamp in the last thing. Is that the car light going on there? It's like, no. It's a surrealist movie.
Yeah.
Well, what is this? When is this happening? Is it yesterday? Is it tomorrow? I'd be like, I don't know. Good guess. Welcome to a surrealist film. So, no, you don't want to you don't want to do that to yourself either.
No, because you'll be answering questions throughout the movie.
You'll be answering questions that there is no right or wrong answer to.
Yeah, it's the interpretation of the watcher.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fucking nightmare. No, you absolutely don't want to watch this with your family. Here's a question. This is actually a really good question for this. Is there a moral to this story?
Judgment. We're judging a book by its cover type of judgment.
Okay, so fuck around and find out. That's a moral?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much it's the embodiment of it.
I feel you.
Because if you stop and think about it, these men are going with her willingly into what is essentially what we know as a death trap, thinking they're going to get lucky, but it turns out that she's a predator instead of the prey.
This movie is so morally ambiguous. I don't know if I'm supposed to feel bad for the people that she kills or good about her for killing them.
Yeah, it's literally like that.
No, I think this movie is very devoid of a moral. Movies don't always have to be trying to teach something, and there's people in this world that'll try to ruin your enjoyment of anything fun by saying, well, everything is always teaching some moral, and it's just a question of what moral are you going to teach, and they don't even realize they're teaching a moral sometimes when they're teaching the wrong one. See, all that's good and fine and true, but the thing is, some movies were not made to do anything but be like, gotcha, or whoa, they didn't see that coming, did you? They're just there to entertain.
The thing is that if you watch it for entertainment purposes, you're going to be entertained.
None of the movies on our season 1, what the fuck did I just watch, are movies that are complicated or were put on there for any other reason than we thought people would be entertained by watching them.
Exactly, because if we're entertained by them, we're just common people. We're not anything right now.
No shit. Like, if you hate our podcast, just read the titles and go watch those movies, and we will still have given you something that's good, I promise.
Oh, yeah. Because what we're doing is making our own interpretation of what is going on during the movie.
No, we're not. We're telling the absolute truth about it, and anybody that doesn't agree with us is wrong. Bless their hearts. So, anyway, does it give you context within the first 5 minutes? Hell no. This movie is so, it lets you know very up front, like right out the gate, this movie is on that bullshit. Like, it's gonna be that fucking long scene, surreal interpretation. This is what the fuck am I looking at type of stuff. They took like 3.5 to 5 minutes just to like play some trilling violins in that like Alfred Hitchcock suspense noise that
you
the
think
violin
you're
people
pulled
make.
up the wrong movie, okay?
Yeah, and it takes forever. First you think the sound is broken, violin, and then you hear Alfred Hitchcock violins, and then they take like 5.5 minutes to show you a picture of someone's eye for no reason, and then the movie actually starts.
And not only that, but you also got to think too, we're literally going back to a black room and a white room too on top of everything. We're not, and we're
Oh yeah, you gotta fucking
the...
deal with this movie on terms of somewhere between that sunken place from Get Out and the Upside Down from Stranger Things.
And not only that, but we're mainly in the van too, so I mean,
whatever the fuck that's supposed to represent.
Exactly. So it's kind of one of those things.
Sometimes a van is just a van.
Yeah, it's a transportation to get point A to point B.
Hey, you know, one thing that I found very interesting about this movie is that it must be awfully nice to have Jared Leto ride up and take care of your dead bodies for you all the time.
Oh yeah, the motorcycle van.
Yeah, fuck 30 Seconds to Mars. I downloaded all of their songs for free, but only the ones I like because I don't need that other shit.
Exactly.
So anyway, no, there's no context in the first 5 minutes. So number 10. And I'm so glad we finally got to this question. Did this movie have an ending or did it just quit?
It had an ending.
This whole movie begins with the end in mind. This movie, it's all about the ending.
It literally...
They didn't just put one in there somewhere to end the ride. Like, this was building... This is like a fireworks show. It builds up to a finale.
Yeah, like, literally, you see all this stuff going on throughout the movie.
This is a symphony of mindfuck that you're getting served here, and the ending is the punchline.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like waiting for the punchline to come along while you're sitting in a...
Hoping that there is even a point, and not only did you get a point, you get a punchline. That's one of the little treasures this movie packs into itself.
Oh, yeah, because, again, it's an artsy movie, so it has that concept in it.
And it was actually entertaining because that's the thing. We live in a world that's so fucked up that we assume that only art which is irritating or somehow otherwise not good is art. Like any of that shit that you watch just because you enjoy it, oh, that's not art, that's crap. And yeah, you know, like, fuck those people. Like, that's... I
mean, seriously.
Like, if it's gonna be extra artsy, I want to be extra entertained. And this movie was extra artsy, and it, you know what? I was extra entertained. It had extra sharp... It was such a banger of an ending. I didn't mind all that other bullshit. It was awesome. I get it now.
And not only that, but we also have to stop and think for a minute. Like, we keep saying it's artsy, meaning it has long scenes.
They are just fucking with you sometimes in this movie. Yeah. So we say a lot that you need to make sure you don't miss anything and get your popcorn and pause it if you're going to leave the room and shit like that. I mean, don't leave the room with it playing. It's not a fucking soap opera speed movie. And yes, a lot of shit will happen real fast, like that beach scene that'll have you rewinding and shit. But don't get stuck in a loop or anything because some of this stuff is just crazy shit that there is no figuring out. So, like, if it doesn't make sense, just move on to the next one. Treat it like a fucking math test.
Yeah, it took me a while to even analyze the beach scene for this particular episode.
And the shit that doesn't make sense will, like, the light bulb will come on for it by the end of the test. So, hang in there.
As soon as you see the ending, it's going to go ahead and give you your context that you need. You'll get it. Yeah.
This movie is very full of itself, but it's not up its own ass. That's one of the things I love about it. Is it lets you know immediately that it's full of itself. I thought I should not have to wonder if the sound is working when I'm trying to sit down and do nothing but stare at a screen. But this movie was their first little, gotcha.
Yeah. They were like, we're going to make sure you're paying attention.
People that watch this in theaters had to wonder if something was broken. That was their little trick on them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so is it believable or not? I think in the Shakespeare sense where he said there's more things, and this is the best I can say at it again without giving anything away, but I think when Shakespeare said there's more things in heaven and earth than you could possibly imagine in all of your dreams, the way I always took that was that, not only is there vampires, there's space vampires, and you don't even know about them, and they're just here fucking with the earth vampires. It's like the government, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever the worst thing you can possibly imagine the government doing is, rest assured, they're doing something so much worse. So don't feel the need, don't beat yourself up about it. They'll be happy to beat you up themselves in the back of a van if you get too mouthy about the truth on the internet.
Yeah, and the saying is there's a lot of stuff between heaven and earth that us people down here on earth do not realize.
I saw a news story recently that said scientists speculate that octopus and squid fish could be extraterrestrials from another planet, and I was like,
what are they smoking?
They're smoking telepathy because they stole my idea. And not only did they steal my idea, they stole the idea of whoever created the game Duke Nukem 3D back in 1996. So, very astute science going on in the world.
Well, I saw a thing, too, about, I don't know if you know the movie Osmosis Jones.
I've heard of it.
Alright, so the blue guy is actually a very rare brain cell. And this was made in 2008, the movie. And the rare brain cell was actually discovered, I think, they said 2013.
Do you want to know how you could launch a career in street fashion?
How?
You want to launch a career in street fashion? Create a design of a blue ring octopus with a blue bandana and sell it to Crips. Because the blue ring octopus is poisonous as shit and it'll like kill you and stuff.
That's actually a really good idea in a way.
And if you wanted to be extra and fucking piss everyone off, like I would.
Would you make one for the Bloods
I would
too?
make a blue, no. Well, yes, of course, but no, let me tell you what I would do. Instead of making a blue ring octopus, I would make a shirt with a design of a blue ring squid, even though there is no such thing, because squids have 6 arms and, you know, it would just be that much easier to sell it to the Crippers.
Okay, so you do have some ideas.
Yeah, that's how you can launch a career in street fashion.
Sorry, people, our ADD is strong today.
This is a hilarious fucking question. Funnier for this movie than anything else we watched. Was there a good twist to this movie?
Oh, good God, I forgot
This
about
movie
this
is the
goddamn
twist.
question.
This movie may as well be a fucking Chess Records Chubby Checker joint because it is the twist, y'all. This story is the twist. And
I mean, seriously,
there's some little ones in there too, but even they are just building up to winding up for a great big one at the end that is one of the best in movie history, personally. Anyone who says they figured it out is fucking lying, by the way.
yeah, especially if they figure it out within, like, the first 20 minutes, because I sure as hell didn't.
Nobody figured this fucking movie out. It tricks you because there's so much surrealist, artsy bullshit going on that you give up on there even being a point, let alone, like, some information and a punchline. Yeah, this movie makes you give up on it having anything fucking relevant to say at all, or any point whatsoever. You don't even think there's gonna be an ending. You think it's just gonna trail off, kind of like how it trailed in. So you're not looking to figure it out anymore because you think there isn't one. So it fucks with you that way. It makes you think there is no ending, just like there is no beginning, bruh. And you stop trying to, you know, look for it, and then it sneaks up on you.
Yeah, and not only that, but even though we do this every week, I forgot about that question for this one.
Oh, I know, I did too. Does this movie teach anything believable about life?
Fuck no.
No, it doesn't. It does not. Would you buy or rent this movie?
I would buy it.
I have to have this movie, dude. This movie is gold. This movie is solid gold. Anyone that comes over ever that's never seen it, you can fucking put a permanent memory in their head. Like, they'll be forgetting people's names at work and, like, where they put their taxes and shit to make room for that in their brain.
Oh, yeah. It's a talking point. You gotta think about that, too. It's a talking point because the ending is really, like we said, it leads up to the punchline. And to go back to the question before this one, it sort of does, but sort of doesn't. Again, it is the artsy type. So, fuck no and fuck sorta, because of the simple fact that, again, like I stated about the moral judgment, it's all about the person that is actually watching the movie. Or, in this case, the robotic person inside the movie?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Look, at this point, I gotta tell you that I have actually forgotten your name because I am still busy thinking about this crazy ending to this movie that we're watching. So, old buddy, old pal, do you have any final thoughts about Under the Skin? Did we ever see Scarlett Johansson naked?
No.
Fucking motherfuckers.
No, I think most as we got was halfway undressed.
I take it all back. Fuck this movie. I hate it. Tune in next week where we're going to be talking about something from the UK called
Get Duked.
Get Duked. Holla back, y'all. Peace.
Bye.